Finally, one more thought. One man with courage is a majority, so said Thomas Jefferson. And through the years, we've seen some notable examples of a single person, be it a man or a woman, standing up for what they believe in despite all the odds. Like Army Secretary Joe Welch back in 1954, going toe-to-toe with Senator Joe McCarthy during the Red Scare.
Until this moment, Senator, I think I never really gauged your cruelty or your recklessness.
Look you down and down. Have you no sense about decency, sir?
Or in the 1980s, Johnson & Johnson CEO Jim Burke taking the bold and expensive decision to pull all Tylenol off the shelves across the country until he could be sure of the absolute safety of his product. And that brave student we saw stand up to the tanks in Tiananmen Square in 1989, never to be seen again. Vice President Pence on January 6, 2021, stood up to his boss, President Trump, and a rampaging mob calling for him to be lynched as he insisted on doing his constitutional duty to certify the election of President Biden.
President Trump is wrong. I had no right to overturn the election. The presidency belongs to the American people and the American people alone.
But one area where we haven't seen much courage is in our dealing with our national debt, especially when it comes to how we're going to pay for all that we owe in Social Security and Medicare. Everyone agrees that what we are doing is not sustainable.
There's bipartisan support for Social Security and Medicare. If anything, we need to shore those programs up. They're running out of money.
But when President Biden brought up the subject at the State of the Union address this year, he managed to get Republicans and Democrats to agree that we shouldn't do anything about the problem.
Some Republicans want Medicare and Social Security to sunset. I'm not saying it's a majority.
And he was proud of it.
As we all apparently agree, Social Security and Medicare is off the books now, right? They're not to be sponsored. All right. We got unanimity.
This week, though, we did get an example of real courage in addressing an aging population, as President Macron of France stood up to his parliament to implement pension reform.
In France, President Emmanuel Macron's government faces 2 confidence votes as soon as today over his pension reform. Last week, Macron used a constitutional provision to push through the plan to boost the minimum retirement age from 62 to 64. That led to violent protests. Macron's government says the no-confidence votes won't get a majority in Parliament.
Financial markets this week have called for more than a little bit of courage. Courage to face the truth, courage not to overreact, courage to remain calm. And so we leave you this week with some further thoughts from John Mack, who led Morgan Stanley through the worst of it in the great financial crisis, and what it took to lead his organization through that time.
I knew if I cracked, they all cracked. So I had to put on a face. What they didn't know, I would shut my office door and just try to pull myself together. I couldn't show the stress or fear that we were under.